How are you?
Doing great. How are you today?
This is a great walk-up song, my friend. I'm so glad that you chose this song. This takes me back 20 years. Listen, 20 years ago, my friend, I was a DJ and I would do like weddings. I do weddings and I do high school dances and reunions, but all the weddings, like the first song that everybody wanted to play was Celebration by Kool and the Gang. Get everybody on the dance floor, get them going. So it's a great song, brings me some great memories.
I'm not much about dancing, but we have a lot to celebrate at SPI. We're in our 45th year right
Wow.
now. So May 4th
I don't
of
think I realized that.
it's so on May 4th of next year, it'll be our 45th anniversary. Yesterday was my 8th anniversary of working with SPI. 6 years in a row, we've been in the Transport Topics Top 100. And in 2022, we received the Aggie 100 award for one of the fastest growing Aggie-led companies. So we got a lot to celebrate going on here.
That's very cool. I did not realize the 45-year tenure of the company. And I know that next year we'll get the chance to see the agents at your agent conference down in Nashville. I'm looking forward to being a part of that next year. But that's really cool. And I'll tell you what's
It's
amazing,
going to
Joe.
be
I
our
had a chance.
actual anniversary when you're there.
That's awesome. That is so cool. We're going to celebrate and have a good time. But what really amazes me, Joe, is I've had the chance to talk to a lot of your agents and they are incredibly happy being a part of the SPI family. And agents can be fickle sometimes. They come and go from time to time. Having agents that stick around with the organization means you guys are doing something right. So kudos to you guys. Congratulations, especially on all those accolades. That's pretty cool, man. That's really neat.
Yes.
All
In
right.
an
So
environment where you have a bunch of little bitty guys that are just start up and then they disappear, for us to have made it for so long is fantastic.
yeah, that's great. It's off
You
today.
faded out
There
on
we
me
go.
there.
I've had some internet issues today. It's been weird. I was out of town last week, Joe. And as soon as I got back and started working on Monday, it's like my internet was like, "Oh, we're doing this again. We're working again. That's what we're doing." It doesn't want to play nice. So hopefully we get through this with no problems at all. It should be great. But as we get started today, we want to talk about you a little bit and your story. So obviously SPI's been around 45 years. You've been with them great, but you've been in the game a lot longer than that. Talk a little bit about your journey into transportation logistics and then a little bit more into how you got to with SPI.
I never wanted to do this. My father did it. His father did it.
You and about a
Grandfather did it.
100,000 other of us.
Yeah, and I had worked on the docks in college, and I knew I didn't want to do that. And my father, it looked like he had a boring office job, and I didn't want to do that. And I thought I was going to have a career in the military. I attended Texas A&M on an Army scholarship, and
Oh, go Aggies.
yeah, Gig 'em Aggies. And we were in the service, Trisha and I, for 6.5 years, and then got out and started trucking. And over the course of decades, I've held every executive position in trucking companies, and that having that diverse background gave me an opportunity to be a consultant. And so for the last 20 years, I have both worked within companies and had a consulting practice.
Yeah, very cool. And I'll echo what Ruth said. Thank you so much for your service. What did you do in the military? What was your job?
First of all, I had outstanding assignments. I was in Colorado Springs, Colorado, Presidio of Monterey, California for language school, and then went to Italy for 3 years. I was an air defense officer. So I had a platoon that had Vulcan cannons. And then I was a battery executive officer. And then I had a Nike Hercules unit over in Italy.
Oh, wow. So you said you went to language school. So did you learn Italian? Are you fluent in Italian?
Yes, I learned Italian and I was fluent in it. I could probably get back up there with a little refresher training.
Probably don't use as much of that over here, especially maybe British Columbia. Not a lot of strong Italian contingency, maybe. I don't know.
Not much anywhere.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. What did you learn from the military that helped you in leadership? You've been in leadership positions, you've led companies, now you're president of SPI. What are some lessons from military that you learned leadership, good or bad? Things you like, things you didn't like?
I think Texas A&M is probably the best leadership incubator in the world. And having gone through the Corps of Cadets there and having experienced a number of great leaders in the university, the president of the university, the vice president of student affairs, Dr. Coldus, the commandant of cadets, Tom Parsons. They who have been involved with that group, and then to work in the military under some outstanding leaders as well. And a lot of my classmates and upperclassmen were great leaders. So I had the opportunity to learn from a lot of other people.
Yeah, the Texas A&M Corps Cadets is no joke. I've had some friends that have been at Texas A&M, not in the Corps Cadets like you, but talked about it, and it's pretty respectable across the country, pretty
It's
well
a
known.
place to be. It's a place to be.
That's for sure. All right, one more thing I want to talk about with you specifically before we jump into SPI. You've been very active in the foster community, foster parent community, while helping companies with that. I believe you've been working with an organization called CK Family Services. Talk a little bit about that aspect of your life.
I got credit for it, but it was really my wife and daughter. And 20 plus years ago, we lived in Dallas, and my daughter was still in high school, and her older siblings were off in college. And she came to us and said, "We've got this big house. I think we ought to try to use it." And so we did foster babies. And so my wife and daughter did all of the work. But I was a licensed foster parent. And our last foster child just turned 19. He calls me Uncle Joe, and he came here for his birthday. Great kid, Matthew. It was a great experience.
Yeah, that's amazing. There's such
Around
a
so
need
much
for
we
that.
haven't been able to do that.
Yeah, there's a huge need for that. Kudos to your wife and your daughter for that. And it's hard because foster parents, they go into it knowing that they're going to take care of a child. They oftentimes don't know how long. They get emotionally attached, and a lot of times they don't end up adopting them. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. They have to give them back to the family when situations change. We've had a lot of friends in our community that have experienced that. And it's very difficult. It's an incredibly difficult thing to do, but it's such a service. It's such a much needed service in our world. So it's awesome.
Ours were babies, and it was very short term. A lot of people don't want to do babies because it's labor intensive, but also they don't stay very long. They're placed either back in their original home or with relatives or
Yeah.
something quickly. And it's sometimes you just see heartbreaking situations. So yeah, it's pretty tough.
Yeah, babies would be tough. So I'm missing some sleep there. And also that goes along with it, changing diapers and the whole works. But I've loved every stage of parenting. But that's one stage I'm not missing as much as the others. That's for sure.
And that's where we
They've
go
all
back
earned
to the part where my wife and daughter did all the work.
it. That's right. They did a great job. What's cool that you guys all as a family did that together and supported that. I think that's tremendous. All right, let's shift gears for a minute and talk about SPI Logistics. So you've been there for 8 years. Talk about how you got to SPI and what really attracted you to the company, to that model, and what you just love about it.
I already had experience with agent based companies, and I've worked for great companies with lousy ownership in the past. And this was a terrific opportunity to work for both a great company with great ownership. Mitch Helton and his partner, Jim Taggart, were great. Jim was the president, and he wanted to step back from management and just be a full time salesperson. And so they needed to find somebody else to step into the president's role. Fortunately, I was just in the right place in the right time. Mitch knew me, offered me the opportunity, and I just had to jump at it. It was great.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. And I can relate to that. I can relate to their situation because I love selling as well. So as the owner of my company, I can't wait to hand off a lot of those administrative and managerial tasks so I can just stay networking and selling because that's my sweet spot. So kudos to them for recognizing that and for
We
bringing
could
you
probably
on to
come
do
up
that.
with a percentage sharing agreement where we'll take over your admin for you.
But I may need a little help with that. You never know
Okay.
what we got going on. That's not my thing at all. But the model does allow for that. One thing I love about this, and I've had a chance to work with a lot of freight agents over the years, other agencies I've known, some friends in the industry that have done that. And the one thing I love about it is that it allows the agents to really stay in their sweet spot. Allows them to, like a lot of agents love selling or love moving freight or one of those aspects of it. Most of the times they don't like collecting money. They don't like some of the admin stuff that goes on with that. Talk about the value that you guys are providing these agents and just how much joy that provides you knowing what you're allowing these guys to stay in their sweet spot.
There are actually a number of, if there are 20,000 brokers registered with the DOT, the majority of those are probably like you are. They're having difficulty with the administration, and they would do well to join SPI or somebody like us and concentrate on their strengths. But we take primarily people who are already in the business. Either they've got their own MC number and the administration has worn them out and they want to come over to us, or they're an agent for somebody else where they're not getting the kind of treatment that we provide our agents.
Yeah. It allows them to maintain ownership of their book of business, but it just
Yes.
allows them to give away some of those things that are just not fun or not, maybe they're not, they're just their skill set. Not, they're not good at. They're fun for other people. They're not fun for them, and allows them to do that. So what are some of maybe the hesitations that people have, that agents have about making this type of move, or to be candid, freight brokerages that have a legitimate business of 10, 20, $30 million, but they're maybe hesitant to make that move?
A lot of people may have first of all, if they're an agent with an existing company like ours, they may have experienced a very difficult transition and they're afraid to go through that again. We pretty much perfected that. It's a simple task to move over. And the same applies for those people who are in a standalone company today looking to affiliate with SPI as an agent. We've got that part figured out. We make it very simple for them.
Yeah, which I think is really critical, because whether it's that kind of a move, or sometimes it's like changing TMSs, these large scale moves can be very difficult or seemingly overwhelming. But to have that down is really critical. I have to ask, have you ever used your Italian proficiency to recruit an agent? That ever come into play?
I keep thinking that somehow I'm going to find some big customer over there and it's going to allow me to go back to Italy and help work with them. But no, it hasn't come into play yet.
Not yet. Maybe one day it'll come up.
Yeah,
You'll
we're
have
looking
just the
forward.
right words. It'll all work out, which is great. All right. You also moved to British Columbia, and man, that's a beautiful place. Talk about the difference from Dallas to British Columbia.
At the time, I was living in Washington, D.C., and I just saw today that car theft is up 117% in D.C. So I got out. The whole nation's capital area is beautiful, but it doesn't hold a candle to Vancouver. We've got the mountains, we've got the water, beautiful city, very clean, very safe. It's a great place to be.
Very international city as well. And I know, because my wife and I honeymoon there. I told you that before we jump on the show. I found a private log cabin resort on Vancouver Island, over where Victoria, the capital, is. And we spent a week up there. Man, it was gorgeous. It was absolutely beautiful. And any chance I can get to Vancouver, I'm looking forward to it. It's such a great city. In fact, I was in Vancouver. This is a fun little story. I was in Vancouver when my Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl. I just happened to be there for a trade show event, and I watched the Chiefs win the Super Bowl from Vancouver. So I've got really fond memories. I got honeymoon, and I got a Super Bowl win from being in Vancouver. So it's one of my favorite cities.
Well, two problems with that. First of all, you don't get all the good commercials on Canadian television when you watch the Super Bowl. And secondly, it would have been during the wintertime, and wintertime is not the time to come see us in Vancouver.
It's true. February it was a little bit colder, but it was more just rainy than cold. It was just kind of that rainy Northwest feel, which I lived in Portland for 5 years, so knew all about that. But the honeymoon in late June, that was epic. That was the right time to be there. That was beautiful. That's for sure. I didn't notice the commercials so much because I don't really watch them that much anyways. I was there for the football that day more than anything else. So I didn't pay attention to the commercials. So that's kind of how that goes. All right, Joe, we got to pause for a second here, because we like to have a little bit of fun on the show every day with our guests. And so first of all, we like to celebrate the National Day from time to time. These are goofy, sometimes they're serious and fun. Do you know what National Day it is today that we're celebrating here on the show?
I'm going to say National Fried Pickle Day.
That would be wonderful, because fried pickles cannot be beat. That's one of my favorite appetizers of all time, especially if you got a little jalapeno sauce on them. Those are good. All right. It's actually National Pet Photo Day. Believe it or not, National Pet Photo Day. And whether they're four-legged, furry kind, or come from the more serpentine species, fishes, bird, pigs, equine, whatever, it's National Pet Photo Day. Share a photo with your pig. We've got a couple of photos to share with you. So the first one here, this is my dog, Tiger. He's a golden doodle, and he's been all around the country. He loves to lay down, as you can see. That's his favorite thing to do. We occasionally go on walks from time to time, but he really just loves to lay around the house. Pretty lazy dog. And then we've got, I believe it's Madge and Maisie. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, Imagine Macy. These are your dogs. So to tell us a little bit about your dogs.
They're both Scottish Terriers. They're the second and third Scotties we've had. Great dogs. They both been show dogs. Neither one of them got enough points to win a championship.
Are they related?
They came from the same breeder, but other than that, no.
Not sure if they're from the same litter or not. Okay, yeah, fair enough.
No,
Well, they're
they're not
beautiful dogs.
related.
We can only handle one, but two might be good because they get to play together and be together. So maybe it's less of an issue of like detachment and stuff like that. We've got major issues with our dog with detachments. That happens from time to time. Beautiful pets there. Let us know what your furry friend is that you have at your house in the comments. We'd love that. Also, we like to have a random question today. Now, Joe, sometimes these questions are funny, sometimes they're serious, sometimes they're really good questions, sometimes they're not so good. Let's see what today's is. The random question today, our producer put this together is, oh, look at this. She kept with the dog trick. If you could teach a dog one trick, what would it be? Have you taught your dogs any tricks?
I could probably teach them to sit. That's- My wife is outstanding dog trainer. She can teach them to do anything, but sit is probably as good as I can do. Or come when I'm
Yeah.
holding food.
Yeah. I'd like to teach my dog not to go to the bathroom in someone else's yard, into the part between the sidewalk and the street. That's the place to go to the bathroom. But my dog sometimes likes to go in the yard. We're pulling them away and try to get that. But I also like the spin move. I have taught him to do the spin move. That's fun. Get him to spin with a piece of meat or hot dog or something. He'll do that for sure. So we don't do a lot. But that's a good one. I do like the ones where they stand up on their hind legs and they walk around. That's always impressive when they look more human in nature, but I don't know how to teach that either. We'll stick with the simple sit and lay down and that kind of stuff. So anyways, yeah. So if you could teach your dog one trick, so let me ask this question. If you could teach your dog one really cool trick, what would it be?
Oh, I couldn't do it. I'm
Nothing.
I'm no good. Huh? I couldn't teach a dog a trick.
I saw this one dog, there was a wall and this dog climbed up the wall and jumped off and grabbed something that was hanging and then landed. He must have been 12 feet off the ground and his owner caught him. Like it was impressive. I've never seen anything like that before. That's a pretty cool trick. That'd be one I'd want to teach, but it's only if it was a small dog and I could catch him. Like my dog's 22 pounds, but it could totally work. Bigger dog than that, it probably wouldn't work very well. So anyway, so there you go. That's a random question. Yeah, interesting question. Not, I guess, the best one we've had, but not bad. Not bad. All right, let's jump back to talking about SPI. So, how do you guys typically talk about some of the ways that you typically go through the process with an agent, somebody who is interested in being a part of SPI or learning more about it? What's that process look like?
Normally, they fill out an application online showing their interest in the company, and we contact them and qualify them because we're spending so much money on each individual office. They have to have a certain amount of business just to be worth our while. And so we have a guy named Bob Ripple who qualifies the agents, and those that would be qualified to be a part of our team. Mike Mikulik, do you know Mike?
Oh, yeah. Great guy.
Mike contacts them and then finds out what their needs are, determines if they would be a good fit with us. And necessary, he and I go meet with them and explain to them the situation, and then they begin the onboarding process.
Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that you guys go and meet with them.
During COVID, we couldn't go see them, and so we had a lot of people that as soon as travel restrictions were lifted and we could get back and forth across the Canadian border, we had to go meet a bunch of these people that we had signed up during COVID and had not met.
Yeah, I think that's so valuable. There's no replacing shaking a hand, having a meal together, sharing an experience. We got a chance to do that recently down in Orlando, which was great.
Yeah,
Got
it
to,
was.
hang out for a little bit at TIA and see the team. That was an enjoyable conversation.
I feel like we talk all the time because I watch your podcast, but the reality is we've only met at one time.
No, but it was a very entertaining dinner conversation with Chris Jolly, Blythe Brumley, Mike was there, James was there. We had a really good time. That was a lot of fun, but there's just no replacing getting to hang out.
And that was an Italian restaurant. I should have whipped out my Italian.
That's right. You didn't show off at all that night. We didn't hear anything. So we'll have to do that again and have that happen. Let's talk about the state of freight right now. What are you guys seeing from your standpoint? You're working with agents. I know a lot of freight brokerages have been struggling to kind of get through this time. What have you been seeing with your agents and the market in general, and how are you guys best supporting them from that perspective?
The overall the overall freight market is down. So there are fewer loads moving, and that's a pro shipper environment, they've beat down the rates. So not only is there less freight to move, it's moving at depressed rates. Because we are so active in marketing, our freight volume is actually up about 10%. If you compare this 10-week period to the same week, 10 weeks in 2022, we're up about 10%, but our overall revenues are down about 5%. So there's a 15% gap between that's what we're
Yeah.
experiencing in terms of the rate decline, but some offices are worse than others, and some of our competitors are worse than others. I hear things are pretty tough out there.
How much do you think it's commodity based? Because I keep thinking about we're still eating the same amounts of food that we were eating a year ago. We're probably still using the same amount of toilet paper that we were using a year ago. So some commodities, the volumes probably haven't changed too much, but other commodities, things probably have changed a little bit. Do you think it's driven mainly by commodity in terms of who's doing well and who's not? Or are there other factors in terms of what causes a brokerage or an agent to continue to be successful?
I think in terms of rates, I think it's just that for a long time, even though the domestic economy might have been declining, we had this backlog of containers offshore that had to be offloaded, transported to warehouses. And once all of that made it to the warehouses, then those trucks started chasing other commodities and made themselves available to things other than freight at the ports. And so that created excess capacity, which has driven the rates down. When you look at the overall statistics, though, the flatbed world is holding up a little bit better than reefer and drive-in. And so it is a little bit commodity driven. And so there's still construction going on. And this is the time of year that takes place, but nothing is really blowing and going. It's just flatbed is slightly better than the rest of us.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple of freight brokerages that are struggling, and I've talked to some that are actually up in terms of their volumes like you guys are. So it's interesting just to understand what's causing it. I think a big part of it too is not only the commodity side of it, but it's also how you treat your customers. Because I think if you treat your customers, even when things are in their favor, more likely they're still going to want to work with you because they know what they're going to get. That's a big part of it as well. A lot of things to be learned in these down cycles. But this is the time when people really learn, I think. As they say, when the tide goes out, you see who's naked. You can see who's done things right and who's not, who's prepared for this and who's not prepared for this moment. We've been finding that out for the last 6 months. That's for sure.
Our agents provide amazing level of service. They really take care of their customers. And as a result of that, I think they're going to be in a better position than somebody who's providing a commoditized level of service. Our agents, they have a long history. Before I ever got here, had a long history of providing outstanding service.
Yeah. Yeah. And that makes a huge difference. It's a big difference between somebody that takes care of you and somebody that doesn't. You just know it, you feel it. And there's a comfort in that. It's something that I think it creates a sticky factor, which is huge. All right, Joe, listen, I'm going to be up in Vancouver in a couple of weeks. So what do I need to know before I head across the border?
We're already planning for you. Looking forward to seeing you on the 24th and 25th.
I know it's going to be exciting. I've got a kind of a whirlwind travel schedule coming up, but I'm looking forward to making the stop up in Vancouver, seeing you and getting a chance to hang out, go to dinner. Maybe we'll go to another Italian restaurant and you can show off that Italian that you got.
I don't know.
that.
Learning Italian food and finding somebody that speaks Italian are two different tasks.
That is the truth. Joe, thank you so much for being on the show. It's always great to talk to you. Thank you for the support and the sponsorship, and we will see you up in Vancouver here in a couple of weeks.
Thanks for all that you do for us. Thank you so much, Trey.
It's my pleasure, Joe. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
All right, everybody, make sure that you join us on Thursday. We're going to have another great episode on Thursday. Can't wait for that. We're going to have Jeff Booth of Open Doc on the show on Thursday afternoon. Until that time, have a wonderful rest of your week. We'll talk to you real soon. And again, shout out to our friends over at SPI Logistics for making this possible. Check them out at success.spi3pl.com. Again, that's success.spi3pl.com. And we will see you guys real soon.